All right, so you wanted to know more about listening in the workplace. We found some seriously fascinating stuff for this deep dive. We're looking at a meta-analysis. Over 122 research papers.
Wow.
That's a ton of data about how listening can impact everything. Relationships, job performance, even creativity.
And it's not just from management journals.
Yeah.
You know, psychology, healthcare. There's even a study on what makes people get their flu shots. Turns out listening is way more important than we think.
Oh, that's really interesting. But hold on, before we get too far, let's talk about what listening really means here. I have a feeling it's more than just hearing words.
Absolutely. The research uses the term perceived listening. It's not just about passively hearing. It's about how the speaker experiences you as a listener. Do they feel like you're really there with them, understanding what they're saying, and responding genuinely? That's what really matters.
So it's not just about nodding along. It's about making them feel truly heard. Understood.
Exactly. And here's the thing. This feeling of being heard, this perceived listening, it actually has a bigger impact than any specific listening technique. Think about it. You're much more likely to buy from a salesperson
Yeah.
who makes you feel understood, even if they're not using some textbook method.
It's about that human connection.
Exactly. And that connection, that feeling of being heard, it leads to so many good things in the workplace.
Okay, so good listening equals good business. I'm all ears. Tell me more about these good things.
Well, this meta-analysis found that perceived listening is linked to stronger relationships, more trust, more liking, even how people see leadership. But it goes beyond that warm and fuzzy stuff. It affects the bottom line, too.
Okay, let's hear it. What kind of bottom line impact are we talking about?
Think about increased job satisfaction, more commitment and motivation from employees, even less stress and anxiety. And on the cognitive side, it leads to better understanding, more knowledge sharing. It can even help the speaker understand themselves better.
Wow, that's incredible. But wait, there's more. You mentioned listening and creativity earlier.
Yes. One of the studies looked at ad slogans. The group that focused on listening to each other came up with way more original and effective slogans than the group that didn't. It seems that really listening can open your mind to new ideas.
So good listening not only helps your relationships and performance, it also boosts creativity. That's amazing. But I have to ask, is there a downside? What about when listening goes wrong? What about bad listening?
Oh, that's a great question. And it leads us to something called destructive listening. You know, think about a time when you were trying to share something important and the other person wasn't paying attention at all, or they kept cutting you off. Or even worse, they just judged everything you said.
Ugh. I could practically feel my blood pressure just thinking about it. It's awful when you feel like you're not being heard or respected.
Exactly. That's destructive listening in action. And there can be some serious consequences. In fact, the research shows a link between destructive listening and something called counterproductive work behavior.
Counterproductive work behavior. That sounds pretty serious. What does that even mean?
Well, think about things like people purposely not sharing information with their colleagues, or spreading rumors, or even sabotaging someone's work. These are all examples of counterproductive work behavior, and they create a really toxic work environment.
Wow. I never realized that something as simple as not listening
Yeah.
could have such a negative impact in the workplace.
Yeah. And while more research is needed to fully understand the link between destructive listening and these negative behaviors, it's definitely something to be aware of.
So we've talked about the good and the bad of listening, but how do we actually get better at it? Is there some secret formula to becoming a master listener?
There's no magic formula, but the research points to certain behaviors that can make us more effective listeners.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Give me the good stuff.
One important element is what's called back-channel communication. It's those small cues we give each other during a conversation to show that we're engaged and paying attention. Things like nodding, making eye contact, even little ahas and
Right, those little signals let the other person know that you're with them and that you're listening to what they're saying.
Exactly. Another powerful technique is paraphrasing. When you rephrase what the other person has said in your own words, it shows that you've been listening.
Yeah.
And that you're trying to understand their point of view.
Paraphrasing also lets the other person clarify.
Yeah.
If you've misunderstood something, right?
You got it. And it's not just about the words themselves, it's also about reflecting the speaker's feelings. When you acknowledge and validate their emotions, it builds trust and connection.
So if someone's telling you about a tough situation at work, instead of just saying, that sounds rough, you might say, it sounds like you're feeling really frustrated and overwhelmed by this.
Exactly. And another key element is asking good questions, specifically open-ended questions
Mm,
that encourage the other person to share more their thoughts and feelings.
that makes sense. When you ask open-ended questions,
Yeah.
you're showing that you're genuinely curious and you want to hear more. It's not just about getting the bare minimum information.
Right. But remember, all these techniques are just tools. The real key to becoming a better listener is approaching conversations with real curiosity and a desire to connect. It's about being present and engaged in the moment.
So it's not about manipulating the conversation
Mhm.
or using techniques to get what you want. It's about showing up with a genuine interest in the other person.
Exactly. When you truly care about understanding someone else's perspective, it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. And that's where the real magic happens.
So it sounds like whether it's at work or in our personal lives, that feeling of being truly heard is
Mhm.
so important for strong relationships.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting? The research suggests that even short bursts of listening can have a big impact. It's based on something called the episodic listening theory. Basically, it says that those moments when we really connect with someone through deep listening can have a ripple effect that goes way beyond the conversation itself.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So it's not about being a perfect listener all the time. It's about those key moments
Mhm.
when we really tune in and make someone feel heard. Those moments can change the whole relationship.
Exactly. And it makes me think maybe becoming a better listener isn't so much about techniques, but about changing our mindset. What if it's about going into every interaction with the intention to truly connect,
Mm,
to be present with the other person?
that's a powerful thought. Instead of just waiting for our turn to talk,
Mm.
we come to the conversation wanting to understand the other person.
Right. It's about valuing their experience
Yeah.
and making them feel like their thoughts and feelings matter. And when we do that, when we truly listen with our hearts as well as our ears, it creates a much deeper connection and a more fulfilling interaction for everyone.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the power of listening. It's not just a skill, it's a way of being. It's how we show up in the world
Hmm.
and connect with others on a deeper level.
And I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, becoming a better listener is a journey. There's always more to learn, more ways to connect with others.
And as we go on that journey,
Mm.
just imagine the impact we can have. Stronger relationships, more understanding, a world where everyone feels truly seen and heard. It's a beautiful vision. And it starts with each of us choosing to listen.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of listening. Until next time, keep those ears open and those hearts engaged